Welcome to part 26 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. Also, I upload content 3 to 5 times per week, so make sure to like and subscribe and hit that sweet notification bell so you never miss new content. The Sacin Island Seawolf. In 2006, a peculiar and mystifying carcass washed ashore on Sacin Island, Russia, sparking widespread intrigue and speculation. Dubbed the Sacin Island Seawolf, this entity was found by soldiers on patrol of the Pacific coast of Russia, an area known for its rich biodiversity. The cryptozoology community quickly became enraptured with this creature due to the unusual nature of the carcass. This is another one of those times where I have to tell you to pause if you're not looking at the screen and take a look at this, because this is a really fascinating photograph. The carcass measured an imposing 15 feet in length and exhibited a series of peculiar features that defied immediate classification. Its body appeared at first glance to be semi-furred, presenting an odd juxtaposition of mammalian and aquatic traits. The creature possessed a gaping, wolf-like mouth equipped with multiple rows of sharp teeth, a feature some cryptid enthusiasts suggest was not commonly associated with known sea creatures. This anomaly led to its initial moniker, stemming from its wolf-like oral structure and its mysterious aquatic origin. According to some theorists, it became readily apparent that the creature was not easily classifiable within the known branches of marine life. According to them, the bones and teeth did not resemble those of any known whale, fish, or seal species, and its skeletal remains suggested a bizarre amalgamation of characteristics. Internet rumors suggest that in the aftermath of its discovery, the carcass was taken into custody by a Russian agency for in-depth analysis. These rumors further suggest that the true nature of the cryptid may have been concealed by the Russian government. Despite these interesting theories, there's a much more down-to-earth explanation which adequately explains the Sacin Island Seawolf. The features which made the seawolf intriguing also gave away the true origin of the creature. The quote, wolf-like skull was more accurately described as a mammalian skull, and what sort of large mammalian creatures occupy the ocean? Dolphins and whales. Further, the quote, fur-covered skin is actually the connective tissue in the muscles of whales and dolphins. This connective tissue decays at an extremely slow rate, long after the actual muscle mass has degenerated, and thus gives the appearance of fur on the carcass. Though the exact species of whale or dolphin isn't known, it's speculated that it's either an orca or a beluga whale. Also, if you're a dedicated viewer of this series, you may note that this cryptid bears a lot in common with the Sacin woolly whale covered in part 23 of the series. The 2003 Angola Boeing 727 disappearance. On May 25, 2003, a Boeing 727 disappeared from 4 de Fevereiro Airport in Luanda, Angola. This aircraft, once part of a major airline's fleet, had been reconfigured to transport diesel fuel, devoid of its passenger seats. On that fateful day, shortly before sunset, 2 men, Ben Padilla, a pilot from the United States, and John Mutantu, a mechanic from the Republic of the Congo, are believed to have boarded the aircraft. And note here that I say believed, as no eyewitnesses are confirmed to have seen either man get on board the aircraft, despite neither being certified to fly a Boeing 727 and lacking the requisite crew. Ben Padilla is suspected to have been at the controls. The plane commenced taxiing without authorization, failed to communicate with the control tower, and took off into the night, never to be seen again. The plane was filled with 14,000 liters of fuel, which meant that it could travel anywhere from Ghana to Namibia, north and south, or out in the Atlantic, or to Tanzania from west to east. This aircraft's disappearance is surrounded by numerous theories and speculation, with the lack of any concrete evidence or facts opening up the door to almost any possibility. One theory suggests that the two men were forced to hijack the plane against their will and deliver it to an unknown location. Once they delivered the plane, according to this theory, Padilla and Mutantu were disposed of, and the plane was repurposed. Another theory suggests that the two men were in on a scam and assumed new identities after the hijacking. However, neither of these theories have any evidence to back them up and are entirely speculative at this point. Others have speculated that the two men may not have been on board the plane at all, as there were no confirmed sightings of them getting on the plane. According to this theory, the two men were slain and disposed of prior to the theft of the plane by people affiliated with the actual planejackers. However, like all theories in this case, this is entirely speculative in nature. Given the mysterious nature of the vanishing, other more speculative theories have been suggested. Naturally, with no trace of the plane having ever been found, alien abductions and dimensional warps have been proposed as possible solutions. However, once again there is no evidence in favor of these positions. At present, there appears to be no active investigation into the whereabouts of the plane or the two men. The 1960 U-2 aircraft incident. The 1960 U-2 incident marked a significant escalation in Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. On May 1, 1960, a U.S. Lockheed U-2 spy plane, piloted by Francis Gary Powers, was allegedly shot down by the Soviet Union during a reconnaissance mission over Soviet territory. The incident exposed a covert U.S. operation aimed at gathering intelligence on Soviet military capabilities, particularly their intercontinental ballistic missile programs. The U-2 aircraft, designed to fly at high altitudes beyond the reach of Soviet fighter jets and missiles, was part of a strategic U.S. effort to monitor Soviet military installations. The plane was initially brought to a joint Turkish-American airbase located in Turkey, where it was outfitted for the mission over the Soviet Union. From there, it was ferried to Peshawar, in Pakistan, aboard a C-124 transport plane. And to revive an ancient meme format to describe this situation: "Yo dog, I heard you like airplanes, so I put an airplane in your airplane so you can fly with an airplane in your airplane." But I digress. The plane took off from Pakistan, intending to photograph key sites within the Soviet Union, including missile sites at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, before landing in Norway. However, the plane was detected and allegedly shot down by a Soviet surface-to-air missile near Ekaterinburg, Russia. Powers ejected and was captured upon landing. I note that while he had a self-ending kit on him, he didn't use it, contrary to his apparent orders in such a situation. Also, in what can only be described as a massive screw-up, the Soviets accidentally shot down a MiG, slaying the pilot on board. The official cause of this pilot's untimely end wasn't made public until the fall of the Soviet Union. As an interesting aside, because of the cover-up, the Soviet Union heavily decorated the surface-to-air missile defense squadron which shot down the MiG. That must have been one of the most somber decoration ceremonies ever, with all the parties knowing about the MiG situation, but being unable to talk about it. The incident occurred at a time when U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev were preparing for a summit in Paris, aimed at easing Cold War tensions. Initially, the U.S. government attempted to cover up the espionage mission, claiming the aircraft was a weather plane that had strayed off course. However, the Soviet Union presented evidence of the spy plane, including photographs of Powers and wreckage from the U-2, thereby exposing the U.S. espionage operation. The fallout from the incident was immediate and far-reaching. Khrushchev demanded an apology from the United States and a halt to the reconnaissance flights. When Eisenhower refused to apologize or acknowledge the flights as espionage, it led to the collapse of the Paris summit. The incident not only heightened Cold War tensions, but also had a lasting impact on U.S.-Soviet relations, which were approaching an all-time low. Powers was convicted of espionage by the Soviet Union and sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment, plus 7 years of hard labor. He was released in 1962 in a prisoner exchange for Soviet intelligence officer Rudolf Abel. Well, that's the official version of how things went down. Now let's get to the mystery. In 2010, a CIA report on the incident was declassified, indicating that U.S. officials never believed Francis Gary Powers' version of events. The CIA report references a National Security Agency report as definitive evidence for why this is the case. However, the NSA report itself is still classified at present. However, the CIA report suggests that the plane began to lose significant altitude for no apparent reason prior to the apparent interception by surface-to-air missiles. The CIA report alleges that Francis Gary Powers may not have been shot down. They allege that he may have been attempting to land his plane for the purposes of defection to the Soviet Union with the high-tech plane, and his knowledge of it as a bargaining chip. In the 1990s, Fletcher Prouty, who was a chief of special operations for the Joint Chiefs of Staff under President John F. Kennedy, decided to spill the beans on the true purpose of the operation. According to Prouty, the operation was designated as a disinformation campaign against the Soviets, as well as a means to disrupt the Paris summit. Prouty claimed that the U-2 plane involved had previously been crashed and was rebuilt to lower specifications. He also claimed that the camera was equipped with a subpar camera, which was not in line with the cutting-edge cameras that it could have been equipped with at the time. However, perhaps most astonishingly, he claimed that the engine contained insufficient fuel to reach its destination. Given all these irregularities, this would require Francis Gary Powers to have been in on it, which, if that was the case, talk about bravery. Interestingly, Francis Gary Powers succumbed in a helicopter crash in Encino, California in 1977. In a heroic turn of events, Powers could likely have saved himself by conducting an emergency landing in an area where a group of children were playing. Instead, Powers decided to take evasive action at the last moment, saving the children but unfortunately costing his own life and the life of the cameraman aboard. At any rate, the truth of the 1960 U-2 incident may one day be known once all classified documentation is out in the open. Cusi, the Japanese Nessie. Cusi is a cryptid said to inhabit Lake Kusharo in Hokkaido, Japan. The fascination around Cusi mirrors the fascination and intrigue surrounding Scotland's Loch Ness Monster. This Japanese lake monster derives its name as a nod to Nessie, as many lake monsters worldwide do since Nessie mania in the 1930s. Lake Kusharo, nestled within the Akan National Park in eastern Hokkaido, is a caldera lake, i.e., a lake formed by significant volcanic activity. This lake is significant for its connection to Ainu culture, an ethnic group largely centered around Hokkaido. The Ainu people have long granted spiritual significance to the lake. A statue of Cusi on the lake's shore stands as a testament to the monster's entrenched position in local folklore. It also reflects the unusual human tendency to create statues of lake monsters. If you've ever watched my cryptid series, I dubbed this odd phenomenon the quote, law of lake monsters, which states that it isn't really a legitimate lake monster until it has a statue made of it. The tales of Cusi began to spread in the 1950s, rapidly becoming a part of Japan's collection of modern myths. Descriptions of Cusi suggest a creature bearing a striking resemblance to the plesiosaur, a long-extinct marine reptile, with reports estimating its length to be around 30 to 60 feet. This portrayal aligns Cusi with many other lake monsters reported worldwide, which are often described as serpentine or dinosaur-like in appearance. Cusi mania was in full swing in the 1970s, when numerous expeditions were sent out to investigate the possible existence of the creature. Around this time, A number of photographs were captured of what people claim to be the lake monster, some of which I've attached to this video. Theories as to what this lake monster are range from a relict population of plesiosaur to a floating branch to a hoax involving a whooper swan. Quick note about that last theory: Lake Kusharo is home to numerous whooper swans, all of which have incredibly long necks, making this theory potentially plausible. Take a look and let me know in the comments what you think these pictures could be depicting. The disappearance of Glenn Field. In September 2018, Glenn Field, an experienced outdoorsman, intended to spend the winter living off the land and making his way to Yellowknife, in the Northwest Territories in Canada. Quick word on the Northwest Territories for non-Canadian viewers. This region is amongst the most sparsely populated in the world. Field brought along his 3 dogs, and as an experienced outdoorsman brought along appropriate supplies sufficient to last him through the winter. His last known sighting occurred in the spring of 2019, glimpsed from above by a passing pilot. However, given Glenn Field's solitary nature, he wasn't reported missing until October 2019, nearly half a year after his last sighting. Despite thorough searches, including an extensive aerial survey by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in October 2019, no trace of Field or his campsite has since been uncovered. The RCMP continued to send out search parties until the end of 2020, but these searches were entirely fruitless. In 2022, Glenn Field's brother submitted an application to the court to have his brother declared legally deceased, which was granted in the same year. Despite this, Glenn Field's case remains open and is still being actively investigated by the Yellowknife branch of the RCMP. Theories about what transpired with Glenn Field are speculative at best, largely due to the absence of any concrete evidence or clues. The environment itself presents numerous challenges, ranging from the severe cold to potential wildlife encounters, which could lead to various natural explanations. According to the RCMP, there's no suspicion that foul play was involved. However, from the evidence that has been released publicly, I don't see how foul play could be ruled out. I note that unlike numerous wilderness disappearances like this, I wasn't able to find any paranormal explanations for what happened to Glenn Field. However, I suspect that this is likely due to the obscure nature of his case. Oddly, despite the unusual circumstances of his disappearance, his story never garnered any meaningful attention in Canada. If you have any information with respect to Glenn Field's case, please contact the Yellowknife RCMP office with information. The Getty Kuros. This suggestion comes from a close personal friend of mine who prefers to remain anonymous. The Getty Kuros, a statue purported to date back to the 6th century BC, has long been the center of debate over its authenticity. Purchased by the J. Paul Getty Museum in 1986, the statue immediately drew skepticism from art historians for its fresh appearance and other details that seemed quote-unquote off. Despite initial scientific analyses supporting its antiquity, numerous factors have contributed to ongoing suspicions about its authenticity. But first, let's take a quick aside to look into what a Kuros actually is. A Kuros is an ancient Greek statue type, representing a young, standing male who has apparently lost his clothing. Originating in the Archaic period, around 650 to 500 BC, these sculptures are characterized by their frontal stance, with one foot forward and hands clenched by the sides. They embody the ancient Greek ideal of youth and physical perfection, displaying stylized anatomical features. Each Kuros, while adhering to a standardized form, exhibits regional variations in style and execution, reflecting the artistic conventions of different parts of Greece. Notably, the wide variety of what can constitute a Kuros is partly what led to the controversy over the Getty Kuros. Technical analysis of the Getty Kuros highlighted both similarities and discrepancies with known archaic kuroi. While it adheres to the general measurements and proportions seen in genuine examples, there are a number of unusual features that have experts baffled. For instance, the Getty Kuros has asymmetrical ears, which has not been observed amongst any ancient regional variations. Detailed observations of the statue's motion, tool marks, and the marble's characteristics offered both evidence for and against its authenticity. For example, the statue exhibits a subtle indication of motion towards the right, considered a strong piece of evidence for its genuineness. Yet, differences in sculpting techniques and the unusual application of tools raised doubts among some scholars. Archaic kuroi typically exhibit unique features that tie them to specific regions or periods. In contrast, the Getty Kuros seem to be a mixture of styles from various regions and periods, which did not align with any particular group of kuroi. This amalgamation of styles, combined with the immediate intuitive skepticism expressed by experts upon first viewing the statue, has been a significant factor in the debate over its authenticity. Interestingly, some experts felt an inexplicable sense of revulsion upon viewing the Getty Kuros. Yes, apparently slightly off kuroi can trigger an uncanny valley-like effect for experts. The origin of the Getty Kuros is also shrouded in mystery, adding to doubt about its authenticity. In 1983, Gianfranco Becchina, a Swiss art dealer, presented the Kuros to the Getty Museum's curator. The statue, which was then in 7 pieces, was accompanied by documentation purportedly proving its authenticity. These documents claimed that the Kuros had been part of Dr. Jean Laufenberger's private collection in Geneva, suggesting that Dr. Laufenberger had acquired it in 1930 from a Greek dealer. Notably, the documents included a letter from 1952 from a leading authority on Greek sculpture, who supposedly had authenticated the sculpture. However, the authenticity of the statue and its accompanying documents quickly came under scrutiny. Investigations by the Getty Museum uncovered several inconsistencies and anachronisms. For instance, the expert letter in favor of authenticity referenced a postal code that didn't exist until 1972. Further, a bank account mentioned in another document, supposedly from 1955, hadn't been opened until 1963. These discrepancies indicated that the documentary history of the Kuros had been fabricated, casting doubt on any claims about its provenance prior to 1983. One particularly prominent board member was strongly against the acquisition of the Kuros, as he believed it was a forgery on the basis of the inconsistent styles as well as the provenance issues. The controversy over the statue's authenticity divided the Getty Board of Trustees, with prominent board members resigning in response to the controversy. Once the most prominent opponents of the acquisition were off the board, the remaining board members proceeded to acquire the Getty Kuros for $10 million in 1986. After numerous tests over the course of the 90s, the Getty Kuros museum label indicated, quote, Greek origin about 530 BC or modern forgery. In 2018, in response to the overwhelming evidence that the Getty Kuros is indeed a forgery, it was removed from public display. In my view, this doesn't close the unsolved mystery of the Getty Kuros, but rather opens up an even greater mystery. Who forged this object which tricked the art world? The artist behind the Getty Kuros demonstrated extraordinary skill and an intimate understanding of ancient Greek sculpture. This forger didn't merely imitate, they delved into the essence of Greek art, mastering the stylistic nuances and anatomical details characteristic of early Greek kuroi. The attention to form, posture, and the subtleties of human anatomy suggests not only technical prowess, but also a deep study of archaeological and historical precedents. The forger's work was so masterful that the majority of experts at the time were fooled, as indicated by the fact the object sold for a whopping $10 million. Despite this, the forger's mastery of the style was betrayed by minor anachronistic errors, which caught the attention of the most astute experts. This case really makes me wonder how many other significant art pieces are actually modern forgeries. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. I've said it before numerous times, but my goal is to create the most expansive Iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you all along for the ride. Consider signing up for a YouTube membership and joining the Patreon. Your support allows me to tackle more controversial issues that risk my videos getting demonetized. Also, remember to join the Discord community. We've got well over 50 members now and the community is super active. Click the link in the description. The Curious George Mandela Effect. The Curious George Mandela Effect centers on the widespread, supposedly false memory of the beloved children's book character, Curious George, having a tail. The character of Curious George first appeared in the 1930s and has been a staple of children's literature since. The fact that he is often referred to as a good little monkey, and the general association of monkeys with having tails, likely contribute to the widespread belief in his having one. However, a deeper look into the character's history and illustrations confirms that Curious George has never officially been depicted with a tail, a revelation that surprises many. This phenomenon is a classic example of the Mandela effect, wherein a significant number of people share a vivid but supposedly incorrect memory of a fact or event. However, this Mandela effect has an extremely interesting twist, which I'll reveal at the end of this section. Studies have delved into the Mandela effect, seeking to understand why such false memories occur. One notable investigation examined several instances of the Mandela effect, including the specific case of Curious George's tail. If anyone is interested in checking out this study directly, it's called the Visual Mandela Effect, as evidence for shared and specific false memories across people, and authored by Prasad and Bainbridge. This study involved multiple phases, ranging from analyzing how often incorrect features appear in common depictions to directly asking participants to draw characters from memory. Remarkably, even when participants claimed to be very familiar with the subjects, including Curious George, the inaccuracies, such as the non-existent tail, persisted in their drawings. In the case of Curious George, our minds associate monkey with the inclusion of a tail, leading to the incorrect assumption that George must have one too. But wait, there's more. Curious George was depicted as having a tail in at least one instance, albeit as a licensed comic. In the 1950s, a British maple syrup company licensed the usage of Curious George for their products. Note that Curious George was called Zozo at the time in the British market to avoid any associations of King George VI with a monkey. In this licensed comic, which you can see on screen, Curious George, under the Zozo moniker, was depicted with a tail. As this was a licensed usage of the Curious George intellectual property, it may be argued that this is a canonical depiction of Curious George with a tail. However, even if it is a non-canonical depiction, the existence of some media with Curious George with a tail is an interesting potential, quote, solution to the tail problem. That said, this is definitely one of those cases where it's necessary to employ Occam's razor. To put it in a logical formulation, even a caveman could understand. Curious George is monkey. Monkey have tail. Curious George have tail. The quest for the tomb of Jesus revolves around a few key locations, each backed by varying degrees of archaeological, historical, and scriptural evidence. The primary contenders are the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Garden Tomb, and the Talpiot family tomb, with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre being the most widely accepted and revered among these. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, also known as the Church of the Resurrection, located in the Christian quarter of Jerusalem's Old City, is considered amongst the holiest site for many Christians worldwide. Tradition, dating back to the 4th century, holds that it houses both the site of Jesus' crucifixion at Calvary and his empty tomb, where he is believed to have been buried and resurrected. The Roman Emperor Constantine the Great established the church in the 4th century, officially marking it as the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. The church has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times throughout history. Notably, the Fatimid Caliph demolished the church in 1009 AD in a fit of extreme intolerance. It was rebuilt decades later under the patronage of the Byzantine emperor and with approval of a subsequent more tolerant Fatimid ruler. The Garden Tomb, discovered in 1867 and located outside the current walls of Jerusalem, is considered by some as an alternative site. British General Charles Gordon promoted it as the true site of Christ's burial, citing its proximity to a skull-shaped hill, which he believed aligned with the biblical Golgotha. However, many scholars argue against its authenticity as Jesus' burial site due to archaeological evidence suggesting it predates the burial of Jesus by several centuries. The Talpiot family tomb, which gained attention from a 2007 documentary, is another cited location. Found in 1980, it was initially proposed as the family tomb of Jesus, due to ossuaries inscribed with names associated with Jesus and his family. However, this claim has been widely discredited by scholars who point out the commonality of the names and the unlikely scenario of a family from Nazareth owning a rock-cut tomb in Jerusalem. Further evidence against this is the fact that Jesus' family was decidedly not wealthy, and rock-cut tombs were unsurprisingly reserved exclusively for the elite. Despite the differing opinions on the exact location, the historical and spiritual significance of Jesus' tomb remains undiminished. Each potential site provides a unique perspective on the geographical and cultural context of early Christianity. While it is likely the actual location is lost to time, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre stands out for its long-standing tradition, archaeological evidence, and central role in Christian worship and pilgrimage. Also, in a future episode, I'll be covering a very interesting claim to the tomb of Jesus, which is so bizarre it requires its own entry. For now, I'll just say, it involves Jesus getting off the cross and traveling halfway around the world to start a successful garlic farming operation. Does Yoshi appear in Pokemon Red and Blue? Back in the 1990s, it was common for kids on the schoolyard to come up with wild stories about how to obtain hidden Pokemon in Pokemon Red and Blue. While some of these rumors did turn out to be true, for instance, how to catch a missing No, a glitch Pokemon from the first generation, most were entirely false. One lesser-known example of this phenomenon is the idea that Yoshi appeared in Pokemon Red and Blue as a Dragon-type Pokemon. This rumor started in an issue of Expert Gamer magazine and included a guide as to how to evolve a Dragonite into a Yoshi. By way of background, Expert Gamer, abbreviated as XG because it was the 90s and everything had to have an X to let you know it was quote-unquote extreme, was published from 1998 to 2001. The magazine was a spin-off of the much better-known Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine, also known as EGM, and was designed with a younger audience in mind. In the April 1999 issue, Expert Gamer magazine provided instructions on how to supposedly get Yoshi, and as usual for these rumors, it is convoluted and difficult. According to this issue, 2 copies of the game were required. Red, and Blue, both of which had captured all 150 Pokemon. The supposed instructions are as follows. The blue version receives a Dratini from the red version. The blue version evolves the Dratini to a Dragonite and then trades it back to the red version. The red version then must head to the unknown dungeon and stand closest to where Mewtwo was and use a Firestone on Dragonite. At this point, the screen will glitch and Dragonite will evolve into Yoshi. Unsurprisingly, given that this was an April 1999 issue, this was actually an April Fool's joke. To make the joke even more obvious, the hidden Yoshi trick was apparently a fan submission by a reader named J. Esther. Quite a clever wordplay, if I do say so myself. I note that unlike other Pokemon-based rumors, I'm unable to find any convincing evidence that anyone ever believed that Yoshi could be obtained in-game. Let me know in the comments if you have any memories of this rumor or any other rumors surrounding Pokemon. The Wakayama Curry arsenic slayings. Masumi Hayashi, born on July 22, 1961, became one of Japan's most infamous criminals after she was convicted for a horrific act of mass poisoning during a summer festival in 1998. On July 25, 1998, Hayashi poisoned a communal pot of curry with arsenic at a festival in Wakayama, resulting in one of the deadliest poisoning cases in Japanese history. The poisoned curry led to the ends of 4 individuals, 2 children and 2 adults, while 63 others suffered from acute arsenic poisoning. Hayashi's motives for committing such a heinous act remain complex and partially speculative. A witness reported seeing Hayashi near the curry pot, and her access to arsenic was facilitated by her husband's profession as an exterminator. Hayashi, an insurance saleswoman, and her husband were also indicted on insurance fraud charges for activities prior to the poisoning. It has been suggested that her motives for the poisoning were rooted in personal vendettas against members of her community. She had previously been tried for 3 other attempted slayings by poison, with the presumed motive in those cases being to benefit from life insurance policies. She is suspected to have been jealous and upset at her neighbors for shunning her and her family. I note that this is a questionable motive, given that Hayashi had previously attempted to slay her own husband with arsenic to collect life insurance. I just want to know what sort of logic was at play there. It's totally fine for her to attempt to off her husband, but it's not okay for the neighbors to not want to associate with said husband. The trial and conviction of Hayashi were marked by controversy and debate, primarily due to the reliance entirely on circumstantial evidence. Despite pleading innocent, she was sentenced to ending in 2002, a sentence upheld by the Osaka High Court in 2005 and the Supreme Court of Japan in 2009. She has been denied the ability for a retrial on 3 separate occasions. However, as yet she remains amongst the living, the deed not yet carried out by the state. Hayashi's case has sparked discussions about the possibility of false accusations, given the lack of direct evidence and unclarified motives. Some have speculated that the neighbors hated Hayashi and knew that she was a dangerous poisoner, and thus attempted to co-opt her modus operandi to frame her for a crime and remove her. Under this theory, the individual or individuals who framed her unfortunately used too much arsenic, leading to the horrific results. In favor of this position is the fact that Hayashi had access to enough arsenic to end everyone at the Curry Festival if she wanted to. The fallout from Hayashi's actions has had a lasting impact not only on the victims and their families, but also on her own family. In another tragic turn of events, in June 2021, Hayashi's eldest daughter and granddaughter were ended by the hands of the eldest daughter. The eldest daughter of Hayashi then proceeded to depart from the land of the living by her own hands. Was Jochi the biological son of Genghis Khan? The question of whether Jochi, the eldest son of Genghis Khan, was biologically his, intrigued contemporaneous Mongol elites, as well as scholars, ever since. The historical context surrounding this paternity mystery is complex, shaped by the Mongolian Empire's vast conquests, Genghis Khan's relationships, and the political intricacies of the era. Jochi was born around 1182, just after a time when his mother, Borte, who would become famous as Genghis Khan's primary wife, had been kidnapped by a rival tribe. Borte spent a number of months in captivity where she was, to use the terminology of the time, given to one of her abductors as a concubine, or secondary, quote, wife. Genghis Khan, being a well-known man of action, successfully rescued his wife, and a few months later, Borte gave birth to baby Jochi, the man who ought to have been his successor. Despite this, Genghis Khan recognized Jochi as his son, and he played a significant role in the Mongol Empire's military campaigns and governance. And yes, Genghis Khan, responsible for more human suffering than almost anyone in history, had enough humanity and compassion to recognize the difference between a father and a dad. Seriously, I know guys who've slain 20 million less people who don't get this difference. However, there is circumstantial evidence to indicate that Genghis Khan, while recognizing Jochi as his son, was concerned about leaving his legacy to Jochi and his children. The succession controversy that emerged later in Genghis Khan's life further complicates the issue of Jochi's paternity. During a Kurultai, a political and military council, in 1222, the issue of Jochi's paternity was raised by his brother Chagatai. As an aside, I'm guessing that Thanksgiving must have been awkward for Genghis Khan's family that year. This challenge of Jochi's legitimacy led Genghis Khan to affirm his first son publicly. This was a question of extreme significance. Birth order was a significant factor in determining tribal succession. Further yet, if he was not Genghis Khan's son, he would not be entitled to anything by way of Mongol tribal succession. I note that male birth order was not the only factor at play in Mongol tribal succession, and proven prowess in battle was also required to command respect as a successor. However, given his significant military accomplishments throughout Genghis Khan's campaigns, there can be no doubt that he met this threshold for achievements. Despite the clear affirmation, Genghis Khan eventually chose his third son, Ogedei, as his successor. This was also done to avoid further disputes among his sons, indicating the delicate balance he sought to maintain within his empire upon his passing. Jochi's significant territorial inheritance from Genghis Khan spanned the westernmost part of the Mongol Empire, primarily in Eastern Europe and parts of Central Asia. Notably, this is some of the territory that was previously ruled by great steppe conquerors of Europe such as the Huns and the Khazars. Jochi's descendants played significant roles in the Mongol Empire's expansion and governance, particularly in the formation of the Golden Horde. The Golden Horde is perhaps best known at present for being the state that oppressed the Russian principalities for centuries before the Muscovites, quote, threw off the Tatar yoke. His son Batu extended Mongol sovereignty to its westernmost extent, with Mongol expeditionary forces briefly reaching as far west as the Holy Roman Empire. And as a quick aside from some minor skirmishes, no major battles occurred in the Holy Roman Empire, and Mongol forces would never again threaten this empire. And in a footnote to the mystery of Jochi's paternity, a study in 2019 compared known descendants of a Yuan emperor with known descendants of Jochi and found a close relationship between the two. As the Yuan emperors were definite descendants of Genghis Khan, this strongly suggests Genghis Khan was the biological father. Further, Borte was only kidnapped for a few months, and she gave birth a few months after being returned from captivity. If this timeline is correct, This suggests that it would be impossible for the kidnapper to be the true biological father of Jochi. Also, I've been wanting to drop a variant of this line since I started this. Genghis Khan, you are the father. The Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat is an American cryptid derived from the folklore of rural Appalachian and Cherokee myths and legends. According to Cherokee legend, the Wampus Cat is a woman who harnessed the spirit of a mountain cat to ward off an evil spirit. The physical description of the Wampus Cat varies widely, reflecting the various narratives and perceptions surrounding the creature. It is often depicted with glowing yellow eyes, a feature consistently noted for its eerie, piercing quality that contributes to the creature's mythology. Its body is generally likened to that of a mountain lion, but variations exist, including descriptions of the creature possessing 6 legs or the torso of a woman, accentuating its hybrid nature and supernatural origins. Despite numerous and varied portrayals, the Wampus Cat is always depicted as a figure inspiring both awe and fear. The descriptions of the Wampus Cat very clearly resemble cougars, also known as mountain lions or pumas, which were once common in the Appalachians. Misidentification, especially under poor lighting or from a distance, could lead people to believe they've encountered a supernatural creature. Notably, sightings of the Wampus Cat used to be quite common, especially in the 19th and early to mid-20th centuries. These sightings have dramatically decreased in recent years, so much so that the Wampus Cat's name alone evokes a different era. Given that cougars are now functionally extinct in the eastern United States, aside from western cougars which have wandered far outside their range, this explains the sharp decline in Wampus Cat sightings. The Beam Me Up Scotty Enigma. If I did interviews for this series, and I asked 100 people what character said the famous line, "Beam me up, Scotty," what answer do you think I would get? I'll give you a second here, but I'm sure if you know of this character, you've already got it. It was Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek series, of course. Well, if that was your answer, you're absolutely wrong. Captain Kirk never said, "Beam me up, Scotty," nor did anyone say it. Despite its strong association with Star Trek, this exact phrase was never uttered in the series by anyone in any canonical Star Trek capacity. Captain Kirk uttered similar phrases such as "beam me up" and "Mr. Scott, beam us up," but the full phrase was never said by William Shatner in a canonical context. The phrase's misquotation has not hindered its popularity. Instead, it has been embraced widely across different media and contexts. The misunderstanding surrounding "Beam Me Up, Scotty" likely stems from its essence being captured in multiple episodes without the exact phrase being spoken. There is no doubt that the core meaning of "Beam Me Up, Scotty" is found throughout Star Trek. Therefore, when the phrase "Beam Me Up, Scotty" entered pop culture and started being repeated by people with only a passing familiarity with the show, this contagion grew mimetically through society. Despite this, many individuals have theorized that "Beam Me Up, Scotty" is a Mandela effect, claiming that they absolutely know they heard Captain Kirk vocalize this in an episode of Star Trek. In my view, "Beam Me Up, Scotty" works so well as a general catchphrase, as it functions as a clear reference to Star Trek, which has been an extremely popular series since the 1960s. Imagine if you were attempting to use the catchphrase with a friend group who only had a passing familiarity with Star Trek, and you just said, quote, "Beam me up." There's a good chance you would get some strange looks, and you wouldn't say it again. But now imagine you said, "Beam me up, Scotty," and got some laughs or a positive response. You may use the phrase again, or one of the people who enjoyed it may use it themselves. In my view, this is yet another quote-unquote Mandela effect, which has a very simple and straightforward explanation. Also, by way of trivia, William Shatner said, "Beam me up, Scotty," in the audiobook of a non-canonical licensed Star Trek book written by none other than William Shatner himself. The Emishi people. These people, also known by several other names such as the Ezo, played a significant role in ancient Japanese history, particularly in the Tohoku region of Honshu. The first historical mention of the Emishi comes from the Book of Song in or around 478 AD, which mentioned the land of Wa, modern Japan, having a hairy barbarian king. Their presence and interactions with the Yamato state, the ancient Japanese polity, reveal a complex history of conflict, cultural exchange, and eventual assimilation. The Emishi were located primarily in the present-day Tohoku region in the northern part of Honshu, the main Japanese island. The Emishi were described in foundational Japanese texts like the Nihon Shoki with a mix of fascination and disdain, often portrayed as barbaric and uncivilized. These descriptions, however, likely reflect more on the Yamato state's perspectives and their justification for conquest, rather than the actual practices of these people. They are believed to have descended from the Jomon people, the original inhabitants of the Japanese archipelago. They are also believed to be closely related both ethnically and culturally to the Ainu people, who were able to survive assimilation into the Japanese state due to their remote location in Hokkaido. And for those wondering, Hokkaido, though now part of modern Japan, was only conquered by the Japanese in 1869, just after the Meiji Restoration. This interaction with Yayoi culture is evidenced by the presence of Emishi kofun, or ancient burial mounds, in Tohoku, previously thought to be exclusive to the Yamato culture. Some of these kofun in Tohoku are now considered to possibly have been built by independent Emishi chiefs, rather than Yamato tributaries. The Yamato state's expansion northward involved numerous military campaigns aimed at subduing the Emishi. The campaigns against the Emishi people began as early as the 7th century AD, but may have begun even earlier. Early attempts to invade and colonize what would become the Tohoku region of Honshu were unsuccessful. Much like almost everything in early Japan, the early imperial Japanese armies were based on the imperial armies of China. Unfortunately for the early Japanese imperial state, they did not have the wealth of manpower to call upon to fight the, quote, barbarians on their borders. These early invasions were largely unsuccessful, with the Emishi people employing clever usage of guerrilla tactics and superior knowledge of the land. Importantly, the Emishi, apparently not having access to stirrup technology, adapted a unique style of horse archery which decimated imperial Japanese forces. Notably, the Japanese developed their own style of mounted combat and horseback archery in response to the Emishi, eventually leading to the rise of the samurai class. While samurai are today associated with Nihonto, the various styles of Japanese swords, including the most famous, the katana, this intense focus on swordsmanship was an Edo period development. These early samurai focused almost entirely on mounted combat with spears, as well as horse archery techniques developed from contact with the Emishi. Further, the title shogun, which will be familiar to many viewers, originally referred to an individual who was assigned the task of conquering the Emishi or putting down their rebellions. By the early 9th century, the Emishi had largely been formally conquered, but just because they had been conquered doesn't mean they had been quelled. Emishi resistance continued for centuries, highlighting their resilience and the difficulties the Yamato state faced in controlling and effectively governing the region. By the middle of the Heian period, resisting Emishi were gradually pushed further north, while non-resistors assimilated into Japanese society, leading to a blend of cultures in the region. For instance, many of the most prominent families in Tohoku claim to be of Emishi descent. There are a number of mysteries related to the Emishi people. For instance, It is not entirely certain that they are related to the Ainu people, as there are no known remains of, quote, pure Emishi people. Further, the Emishi are a subject of great fascination in Japan, with particular focus on how long Emishi villages continued to survive past the Heian period. At present, it's speculated that remote villages may have continued to thrive for centuries before eventually assimilating to general Tohoku Japanese culture. That said, importantly, it remains an open question as to how much of traditional Tohoku Japanese culture is actually Emishi culture itself. If you've ever seen the Studio Ghibli film Princess Mononoke, the main characters are Emishi and have many of the traits associated with them, including proficiency in mounted archery. The Disappearance of David Th. David Th, a 21-year-old man from Manhattan, New York, mysteriously vanished on December 13, 1982, and has not been heard from since. The circumstances surrounding David's disappearance remain largely unclear, contributing to the enduring mystery. On the date in question, David's mother reported that he was exhibiting paranoid behaviors, such as rapidly shifting through TV channels, apparently being concerned about what he was seeing. Around 4 p.m., David's mother reported that he left the apartment to smoke. Despite having made plans for his father's birthday that evening, David never returned to the apartment. Despite exhaustive efforts, there has been no subsequent contact or confirmed sighting of David post-disappearance. Interestingly, after a large reward for information regarding his whereabouts was posted, over 40 tips came in indicating that he was living in California. Adding another layer of depth to the mystery, some of these reports indicated that he was seen associating with cultists at a commune. However, some of the other reports indicated that he was involved in the illicit drug trade in California, again raising further questions without any answers. Despite these numerous sightings, none of them were confirmed. If you have any information in relation to the disappearance of David Th, please contact the New York City Police Department. The slaying of Florence Keeble. Florence Ann Keeble's disappearance and subsequent slaying in 1976 remains one of Halifax, Canada's most enduring mysteries. On October 29, 1976, Keeble, a 17-year-old student, was reported missing from school. Friends reported that she attended a baby shower the next day, followed by another get-together on Old Sambro Road around 1:30 p.m. that same day. The following day, her body was discovered by two hunters in a heavily wooded area, approximately 350 yards off Old Sambro Road. This grim discovery led to an extensive investigation by the Halifax Regional Police, marking the beginning of a case that has spanned over 4 decades without resolution. The Halifax Police continue to investigate the case and have advised that they've developed credible theories of the case. However, specific details about these theories are not publicly disclosed to preserve the integrity of the ongoing investigation. Despite the passage of time, a $150,000 reward remains open for details leading to the resolution of Florence Keeble's case. If you have any information with respect to this case, please contact the Halifax Regional Police. The Gir Light, an atmospheric ghost light located near Gurdon, Arkansas, has been a subject of fascination and speculation for almost a century. First sighted in the early 1930s, this mysterious phenomenon appears along the railroad tracks in a wooded area near Gurdon. It draws attention for its eerie, floating glow, which has been described as blue, green, white, or orange, with a bobbing movement. The legend surrounding the Gir Light is deeply intertwined with the town's history, notably connected to a tragic event in 1931. The slaying of William McLean, a railroad worker. The lore suggests that shortly after McLean's slaying, the light was first observed, leading many to speculate that it's related to his spirit in some form or another. Various theories have attempted to explain the Gir Light, ranging from scientific explanations to more supernatural accounts. Skeptics and researchers have proposed that the light could be a reflection of headlights from nearby Interstate 30. However, this theory is contested by the fact that sightings of the light predate the construction of the interstate. Others have suggested that it could be explained by natural phenomena such as swamp gas or ball lightning. The Gir Light has also been linked to the story of a railroad worker who was parted from his head in an accident, with the light purportedly being his lantern as he searches for his head. This narrative, however, is likely more folklore than fact, as there are no apparent records of such an accident occurring in the area. That said, documentation in the 1930s is not always available today, though generally an event like this would have been covered by a local news outlet. Despite various investigations and theories, the true nature of the Gir Light remains a mystery. It continues to attract both locals and visitors, especially around Halloween, when the desire to experience the unexplained draws crowds to the area. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for new content. Like I said at the start, I upload 3 to 5 times per week, and you don't want to miss any new content. Also, get involved in the Lazy Chill Zone community by chilling with like-minded individuals in the Discord channel. The link is in the description. Remember to check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership as well. Also remember to hit the playlist to see dozens of hours of Unsolved Mysteries content. Shout out to my patrons Kazak Cutie, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, and Blasphemous. Also, big shout out to YouTube members Jordan All and Syntax Nexus. Also to every viewer and listener, I love you so much. Thanks for all your support. I'm so happy to have you along for the ride. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone. Welcome to part 27 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. Also, I upload content 3 to 5 times per week, so make sure to like and subscribe and hit that sweet notification bell so you never miss new content. The Disappearance of Colleen Wood. In late 2000, Colleen Wood, a 53-year-old woman who had recently embarked on a new chapter of her life in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, vanished under mysterious circumstances. Colleen Wood's life before her disappearance was marked by significant changes. After ending a long-term relationship, Wood moved from Ohio to Florida, seeking adventure and a fresh start. She found employment as an office manager at Lighthouse Point Marina, where she was known for her friendly demeanor and ability to connect with customers. Colleen's life took a seemingly romantic turn when she met John Paul Sr., a former professional race car driver, mutual fund manager, and millionaire yacht owner. What Colleen almost certainly didn't know is that John Paul Sr. had a much darker side. He operated a large drug trafficking operation. In 1983, in response to one of his, quote, business partners cooperating with the state, John Paul Sr. shot the witness numerous times and then fled the United States. Colleen was almost certainly unaware that John Paul Sr. was still on probation and had only been released from prison in 1999, the year prior to their meeting. However, John Paul Sr.'s potential criminal history is even darker than attempting to silence a quote-unquote business partner in an illegal operation. In 1980, a woman named Chalice Barnett, who took the legal name Chalice Paul, married John Paul Sr. Chalice Barnett herself vanished under mysterious circumstances in 1981. But let's not get too far off course. Again, it's a safe assumption that Colleen Wood had no idea that the person she had started dating had such a dark past as he presented extremely well. In the days before everything was digitized, he could easily present to her a curated version of his life where he was simply a race car driving millionaire mutual fund manager. And unlike most shady individuals like this we've covered on this series so far, his backstory was actually true, just with significant omissions. Their relationship quickly evolved, and Wood and Paul planned a 5-year sailing tour around the world. In preparation, Wood sold her condo and quit her job, intending to invest in Paul's business ventures and work alongside him as a decorator and renovator for his yacht. The last known contact with Wood was in December 2000 when she informed her son that she would be embarking on the sailing tour around the world. Further at this time, she mentioned a trip to Key West with Paul and a subsequent lack of availability due to poor cell reception. Following Wood's disappearance, an investigation into her case uncovered suspicious financial activities. Approximately $40,000 was withdrawn from her bank account, and her credit card was used to place peculiar advertisements in a newspaper. One of the ads was for an individual with sailing experience to help sail a ship. This is perhaps not inherently suspicious, given that a yacht needs a crew. The other ad was a great deal more sinister, being placed for a female companion to accompany an individual on a long boat voyage. The subtext of the second advertisement appears to be that the woman who was filling this role would be receiving financial compensation for her, quote, services rendered aboard the ship. Surveillance footage linked all these suspicious transactions to 2 women who claimed they were instructed by a man to do so in exchange for money. These developments added layers of complexity to the case, suggesting possible foul play. John Paul allegedly gave 3 different versions of the event to 3 different people. According to Colleen's son, John Paul's daughter allegedly told him that Colleen flew into a rage over John Paul maintaining contact with an ex-girlfriend and left. According to this version of events, John Paul never saw her again. That said, this version of events is hearsay, based upon what John Paul's daughter was allegedly told. Colleen's son then claims he spoke to John Paul himself, and that John Paul advised him that there was an argument, and she did leave after the argument, but that he saw her once more. According to this version of events told by John Paul, Colleen came back a few days after the argument with a muscular goon to force John Paul to hand over her belongings. John Paul then claimed that after this instance with this unknown man that he never saw her again. This tale led to Colleen's son filing a missing persons report, which led to the Fort Lauderdale Police Department assigning detectives to the case. These detectives interviewed him in May 2001, and John Paul told the detectives a 3rd version of events. This version of events embellishes upon the previous version of events allegedly told to Colleen's son. In his account to the authorities, John Paul advised that Colleen owed him money and had made no efforts whatsoever to pay him back. In this version of events, she then came back with 2 threatening men to pick up her belongings, and John Paul left Fort Lauderdale permanently very soon after. When police wanted to question John Paul Sr. further, they discovered he had vanished. Notably, this was a violation of his probation. Since vanishing in 2001, there have been numerous sightings of John Paul around the world. The first sighting was in Montego Bay in Jamaica, where he was thought to have stayed for a period of time. In 2004, there was a confirmed sighting of him in Fiji, and John Paul appears to have set up residence in the Pacific Island nation for some period of time. It's speculated that he resided there due to the lack of extradition treaty between Fiji and the United States. While he was in Fiji, a female companion of his stole a laptop from aboard his yacht and eventually provided it to American authorities, who determined that Colleen had owned the laptop. Further sightings occurred in Thailand and Italy, with his last definitively confirmed sighting being in Italy in 2009. If he is still alive today, John Paul Sr. would be 85 years old. Colleen Wood hasn't been sighted nor heard from since 2000, and while she is still officially missing, she is unfortunately presumed to be deceased. If you have any details on this case, please reach out to the Fort Lauderdale Police Department. La Pascualita, the Mexican Corpse Bride. This is a great suggestion by Discord community member CC Noodle. Thanks for this intriguing suggestion. Remember, if you have a suggestion, please mention it here in the comments or join the Discord channel to discuss it with me and the community directly. La Pascualita, also known as the Mexican Corpse Bride, has captivated imaginations and sparked debates for over 90 years. This lifelike mannequin stands in the window of La Popular, a bridal shop in Chihuahua, Mexico, and is rumored to be the preserved body of the original shop owner's daughter. The mannequin first appeared on March 25, 1930, and since then, its uncanny realism, from expressive facial features to varicose veins on its legs, has made it a subject of fascination and fear. The legend tells of Pascuala Esparza, the shop owner, whose daughter was poised to marry but died from a black widow spider bite on her wedding day. In her grief, Esparza supposedly preserved her daughter's body, dressing it in a bridal gown and placing it in the shop window. This tale has been bolstered by the mannequin's lifelike appearance, including detailed hands and glassy eyes, leading many to believe it might indeed be a corpse. Over the years, employees and visitors have reported unsettling experiences, such as feeling watched by La Pascualita or noticing subtle changes in its position, further fueling the legend. Skeptics and experts, however, argue against the possibility of La Pascualita being a real corpse. They note the challenges of preserving a body in such pristine condition for decades, especially in the variable climate of Chihuahua and under the daily handling required for dress changes. The consensus among professionals is that maintaining an embalmed body in a public storefront without significant deterioration over such a long period is highly unlikely. Despite this, the debate continues, with believers pointing to the extraordinary detail of La Pascualita's hands as evidence of its human origin. In my view, this is an extremely unnerving mannequin, even detached from the backstory. The eyes look unlike anything I've ever seen on a mannequin, and look much more in common with what I can only term a taxidermy job. Further, the hands of the quote-unquote mannequin are absolutely and completely unlike anything I've ever seen on a mannequin before. The level of detail in the hands strongly suggests to me that this mannequin may actually be the real deal. Now, I have to be very careful about what I say next, given the censorship on this platform, but I would suggest that this quote-unquote mannequin isn't actually embalmed. Rather, it looks to me as though it has undergone some sort of taxidermy process. At any rate, if you're just listening to this video right now, I need you to take out your phone right now and have a look at this mannequin, and especially its hands. Let me know in the comments what you think of this quote mannequin, and whether you think this mannequin was once alive. Also, as a quick aside, the image of this mannequin may have been the only photograph so far in this series that sent a shiver down my spine. The Rokurokubi. The Rokurokubi, a creature of Japanese folklore, is a yokai that closely resembles a human, but with some very peculiar differences. Some can stretch their necks to great lengths, while other forms of them, known as nukakubi, have heads that detach and fly independently. The Rokurokubi, much like most elements now associated with Japanese culture, gained traction during the Edo period starting in the 17th century. These beings appear as normal women during the day, but undergo a startling transformation at night. Some Rokurokubi are said to be unaware of their condition, attributing their nighttime prowling to nightmares, while others are supposedly fully conscious of their nature. Despite their human appearance, Some legends suggest that Rokurokubi can be identified by white marks on their necks, or by their tendency to sleep with their heads in their laps. And yes, I would consider it a strong indicator that the individual you discover sleeping may not be human if she's elongated her neck so she can use her legs as a pillow. The origins of Rokurokubi vary, with some accounts attributing their condition to religious or spiritual transgressions, thereby cursing them to live among humans as monsters. According to this belief, they seek out and punish those who disrespect Buddhist precepts, sometimes through deadly means. Under this formulation, Rokurokubi are only a threat to those who act in a transgressive manner. Other explanations offer a psychological perspective, suggesting that the transformation symbolizes a suppressed desire, with the affected individuals unaware of their true condition. Rokurokubi stories are rich and varied across different regions and texts, featuring in numerous Edo period tales. In one story from the Kashiyawa, a peddler tells a husband that a white dog's liver can cure his wife's illness. After the dog is slain and the liver administered, their next-born daughter becomes a Rokurokubi. Another account from the Shusai Hiki mentions a male Nukikubi, illustrating that while these beings are usually female, male examples exist. One particularly unnerving story, called Churyo Manroku, reads like something out of a modern horror novel. In this tale, which translates to English as Rokurokubi Village, a traveler comes upon an isolated mountain town where everyone wears a headscarf. As you will recall, Rokurokubi have distinctive marks on the back of their necks, which reveal their true yokai nature. The traveler ends up discovering that the reason everyone wears a headscarf is to cover up the white mark. But spoiler alert, by this time it was too late for the poor traveler. Rokurokubi are a staple of the modern Japanese horror genre, presumably due to the inherently scary nature of a normal-looking woman's head detaching or neck elongating. Also, I note that the Rokurokubi has permeated the Western consciousness due to an extremely creepy Japanese ad that started circulating on YouTube around a decade ago. I've attached the still image from this ad to this video on the right, and for anyone listening only, you're going to want to look now. I remember seeing this video featuring the Rokurokubi back in the early days of YouTube, and I think I blocked out this core memory until researching for this segment. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. My goal is to create the most expansive Iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you all along for the ride. Consider signing up for a YouTube membership and joining the Patreon. Your support allows me to tackle more difficult issues that risk my videos getting demonetized. Also, remember to join the Discord community. We've got well over 50 members now, and the community is super active. Click the link in the description. The Canberra Mandela Effect. Quick explanation for anyone unfamiliar. The Mandela Effect is named after the collective false memory of Nelson Mandela's death in prison in the 1980s. It now generally represents a phenomenon where a large group of people remember an event or fact differently from how they actually occurred. One newly emergent example of the Mandela Effect involves the capital of Australia. While Canberra has been the official capital since its designation in 1913, many individuals vividly recall Sydney, the most populous and internationally recognized city in Australia, as the nation's capital. My theory is that this belief stems from Sydney's global prominence, overshadowing Canberra's status, despite its role as the political and administrative center of the country. Sydney's iconic landmarks, like the Sydney Opera House, contribute to its international fame, possibly leading to the misbelief that it must also be the capital. At any rate, either the people who remember Sydney as the capital of Australia are from another dimension which merged with ours, or they simply misremembered the capital of Australia. Or perhaps most likely they never actually knew what the capital of Australia was to begin with. Perhaps they simply assumed that because Sydney was a city they've heard of and seen pictures of, it must be the capital. The most mysterious song on the internet. The most mysterious song on the internet remains one of the most perplexing internet mysteries to date. Its origins trace back to a recording off a German radio station during the early 1980s by a teenager named Darius. This peculiar track, characterized by its post-punk and new wave elements, was rediscovered by Darius's sister Lydia, who initiated an online quest for its identification in 2007. A community sprung up around the song and the hunt for the identity of the song. The foremost community is the subreddit r/the mysterious song, which serves as a clearinghouse for theories and research into the topic. The mysterious song community has taken their efforts extremely seriously and has reached out to a number of people potentially involved in the playing of the song originally, as well as potential artists. Further, these community members were able to get the complete playlist of all tracks played by the radio station in question, meaning that the true name of the song is almost certainly known. Paul Baskerville, the original DJ suspected of airing the track, has involved himself in the investigation, even playing the song on his current show in hopes of garnering attention. Paul Baskerville has no recollection of the song, which I've heard portrayed as proof that he likely didn't play it. However, it's necessary to remember that he has been a radio DJ for over 40 years, meaning he's probably forgotten more songs than most people have ever heard. Various theories have been posited regarding the song's origin, including speculation that it might have been a demo recording by a local German band. Another theory suggests that the song may have been produced as part of coursework at a university in Germany. Another theory suggests that an obscure Greek new wave band named Statues in Motion produced the song. With respect to this last theory, while it has gained traction on YouTube lately, I can't find any convincing evidence to suggest that this is the case. Further, the member of the band who claimed it as a Statues in Motion song appears to variously claim and disavow the song based on the mood he is in on the day in question. Further yet, the lead singer of the band was allegedly located in Australia, but for whatever reason, refuses to publicly claim the song. Others have speculated that the most mysterious song on the internet is some sort of ARG, or alternate reality game, coming up with numerous convoluted reasons for why this may be. In my view, after researching the case, it appears that the most likely explanation is that this was an obscure local northern German band who submitted a demo tape to a DJ. The tape got played once and then forgotten about for years, until the hunt for the song began. In support of this theory, there are numerous songs on the radio playlist in the time period where the most mysterious song was played that are entirely unknown. Also, unfortunately, while I would love to play a segment of this song in this section, according to other YouTubers, playing the song can lead to a copyright strike. The Kofu UFO Incident. This is another great contribution by patron and Discord community member Monoxide Wendigo. In February 1975, the Kofu UFO incident unfolded in Kofu City, the capital city of Yamanashi Prefecture in Japan. The incident involved two 7-year-old boys, Masato Kawano and Katsuhiro Yamahata. The boys reported encountering a UFO and its occupants near the Hinode housing estate, sparking a flurry of investigation and speculation that persists to this day. The boys' account detailed a close encounter with a UFO that descended into a vineyard, producing a crackling sound upon its landing. The craft, described as disc-shaped and silver with a dome atop, allegedly opened to reveal a humanoid creature. This being, about 4 feet tall, wore a silver suit and bore rabbit-like ears, along with distinctive metal fangs. The boys claimed the creature explored its surroundings, seemingly oblivious to them, before noticing them and patting Yamahata on the shoulder, which caused him to collapse in shock. Following their experience, the boys and their mothers returned to the vineyard, where they observed a pulsating orange light, which abruptly vanished. The incident was subsequently shared with their classmates and became a local sensation. Notably, additional witnesses, including other children and adults, reported seeing strange lights in the sky around the same time. Investigations into the incident revealed physical evidence at the vineyard, such as knocked-over concrete posts, soil marks, and traces of abnormal radioactivity. These findings contradicted the Japanese Civil Aviation Bureau's dismissal of the sighting as merely the lights of a plane flying at low altitude. It's unclear to me how they explained away the sightings of extraterrestrials, as sources on this case in English are unfortunately quite limited. However, based upon similar cases previously, I would hypothesize they stated it was a hoax or a mass hysteria event involving all witnesses. The Hombre Gato. The Hombre Gato, or Cat Man, is a creature from South American folklore, particularly in Argentina. The creature is described as part human and part feline, with its activities confined to the nocturnal hours, where it hunts and terrifies unsuspecting animals and people. The tales of this cryptid have emerged primarily from rural areas, and the creature is less well known in populated urban centers. The legend of the Hombre Gato shares similarities with other mythological beings, such as the werewolf, in that it is said to roam at night, preying on both animals and humans alike. While some assert the reality of this creature, the majority of people now view the Hombre Gato as a fictional creature or a fringe cryptid. The origins of the Hombre Gato are not clearly defined, and it may represent a mixture of European and indigenous South American traditions. Despite the lack of concrete evidence supporting the existence of the Hombre Gato, the tale persists, captivating the imagination of those who hear it. In more recent years, some theorists have suggested that this creature represents the southern extent of the much better known chupacabra. The evidence for this appears to be the potential similarity in description between the two cryptids. Other theories include the creature being a South American variant of a skinwalker or a witch transforming into a cat. Still others suggest that the Catman could be a rare felid-type extraterrestrial. If you're from South America or Argentina in particular, or have roots there, please let me know how common the tale of the Catman is in this region of the world. Are cats domesticated, or did cats domesticate us? Cats, with their origin tied closely to the wild cats of the Near East, have journeyed from untamed wilderness into the very heart of human society, becoming one of the most beloved pets across the globe today. The story of cat domestication intertwines with the dawn of agriculture, around 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. The emergence of farming in the Middle East, the Indus River Valley, and the Yellow River Valley brought humans into close contact with wildcats. As agriculture attracted rodents, wildcats ventured into human settlements, drawn by the abundance of prey. This mutually beneficial relationship provided the initial catalyst for domestication, with cats offering rodent control in exchange for shelter and food from humans. This symbiosis suggests that cats essentially domesticated themselves by adapting to a lifestyle within human settlements, becoming less fearful and more beneficial to their human hosts. Unlike other domestic animals, the journey of cats towards domestication was less about human intent and more about natural selection within the human environment. Wild cats that were less fearful and more tolerant of humans had a survival advantage, leading to a gradual adaptation towards domestic life. This natural process of self-domestication is evident in the archaeological record, including findings such as the burial of a cat and its human owner in Cyprus around 7500 BC. So this necessarily begs the question, are cats actually domesticated, or are they just wild animals that find it more comfortable to live with humans than without them? And yes, I know what all current and former cat quote-unquote owners are thinking right now. First, though, it's necessary to briefly discuss what domestication actually entails. Domestication in animals denotes a gradual process through which a population of animals becomes genetically and behaviorally adapted to live closely with humans. This process leads to changes that make them distinct from their wild counterparts. This evolutionary journey is generally influenced by both selective breeding by humans and natural selection within a human-altered environment. Traits that are encouraged include docility, a reduced fear of humans, a capacity for companionship, and of course, the cuteness factor. As a result, domesticated animals generally exhibit marked differences in physical appearance, behavior, and life cycles compared to their wild ancestors. Given that cats introduce themselves into the human environment uninvited, and given that wild cats look virtually indistinguishable from the vast majority of domestic cats, cats appear to be semi-domesticated at best. Compare cats to dogs, the vast majority of which don't even remotely resemble their ancestral wolves. Given all the evidence, I'm of the opinion that there's a significant chance that humans are the domesticated species in the human-cat relationship. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership. Your support allows me to take on more difficult topics that risk demonetization. Remember to hit the playlist to see dozens of hours of Unsolved Mysteries content. Shout out to my patrons Kazak Cutie, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, and Blasphemous. Also, big shout out to YouTube members Jordan All and Syntax Nexus. Also to every viewer and listener, I love you so much. Thanks for all your support. I'm always so happy to have you here. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone. Welcome to part 28 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. The Disappearance of Dale Williams. The disappearance of Dale Williams, a 42-year-old auto body shop owner, on May 27, 1999, in Nucla, Colorado, remains a baffling unsolved mystery to this date. Williams was last seen around midday when he reportedly left his shop to assist a stranded motorist less than a mile east of his location. This act was out of the ordinary, as Williams was not known to receive calls about car problems, given his profession primarily involved auto body work rather than mechanical repairs. According to investigators who interviewed a witness at the scene when the call came in, the caller was likely a female, though it was unclear if they were known to one another. The case took a perplexing turn when, 2 months later, Williams' pickup truck was discovered submerged in a river, devoid of any clues to his whereabouts. The condition and position of the vehicle suggested deliberate action rather than an accident. The truck was in gear, the ignition was on, and the driver's side window was partially closed, a detail that struck Dale's wife as odd because he habitually drove with the window fully down. Theories around Williams's disappearance have been numerous, with some suggesting foul play. Before his disappearance, Williams and his wife had helped a woman relocate to escape a troubled marriage. This act reportedly enraged the woman's husband, who was a former friend of Williams. Following this, there were quite a few incidents of vandalism and theft targeting Williams. This included the mysterious placement of his gun in the drop box of a local video store his wife owned, raising suspicions of a retaliatory motive. Further, following Dale's disappearance, Dale's wife put up missing posters of Dale around town. She noticed that the missing posters were being taken down, and the authorities set up a surveillance operation at a local post office to figure out who was behind the poster removals. Investigators discovered that the same man whose ex-wife was helped by Dale Williams and his wife was the one responsible for taking the posters down. However, despite this suspicious activity, no known further investigative steps were taken against him, and he apparently provided an alibi. Despite extensive investigations, no concrete evidence has led to a resolution of the case. A witness claimed to have seen someone resembling Williams hours after he was believed to have disappeared with his truck back at his shop. However, the witness who saw this was interviewed days after Dale's disappearance, and human memory being what it is, dates may have gotten mixed up. Further, the phone call that led him to leave his shop was traced to a stolen cell phone, adding another layer of intrigue but no clarity. This strongly suggests to me that the distress call was used to lure Dale into a bad situation, though unfortunately no recording or transcript of the call exists. Authorities have maintained that there's no evidence to suggest Williams left of his own volition, leaving his family and a community searching for answers. There's been a significant recent potential development in Dale's disappearance. In October 2023, the Montrose County Sheriff's Office and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation jointly conducted a search of a property in Nucla. According to the authorities, the search warrant was in relation to the potential disposal of Dale's body. At present, there have been no further updates on the results of the investigation, but of course further search warrants may be obtained. If you have any information whatsoever on the disappearance of Dale Williams, please contact the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. What's the deal with Tommy Wiseau? This is a recommendation from community member Kugel Blitz. Thank you for this excellent suggestion. Tommy Wiseau, born on October 3, 1955 in Poznan, Poland, is an enigmatic figure in the world of cinema, best known for his 2003 film, The Room. Notably, it was only confirmed with absolute certainty in 2023 that Wiseau was born in Poland, with his previous statements about his origin being intentionally vague. He had previously stated variously that he grew up in France, or that he grew up in New Orleans, though other stories of his early life were also told. The Room, which Wiseau wrote, directed, produced, and starred in, is often cited as one of the worst movies ever made, yet it has achieved a near unparalleled cult status. The budget for The Room was $6 million, which he covered out of his own pocket, reflecting the aura of mystery that surrounds Wiseau himself. I note that Wiseau claimed to have been involved in a catastrophic, near-fatal car accident at some point in the 1980s, which inspired him to pursue his film career. While few details are known about this crash, it's possible that he received an extremely significant settlement as a result of this car wreck and used these proceeds to fund his career. And just to be clear here, Wiseau, who presented himself to be a struggling actor and filmmaker, somehow ponied up $6 million of his own money to make The Room. Alternatively, Wiseau himself has occasionally claimed to have made a fortune through, quote, entrepreneurship, which sounds incredibly suspect. Before his notorious, quote, success with The Room, Wiseau attempted to break into Hollywood since the late 1980s, making short films and attending auditions. This isn't exactly the resume of someone who happens to have $6 million laying about to fund a bizarre passion project, which was almost sure to fail. In 2017, James Franco depicted Oiseau in the film The Disaster Artist, which led to both critical acclaim and commercial success. This film also brought the mystery of Tommy Wiseau and The Room to the attention of a much wider audience. As an interesting aside, The Room is currently in the process of being remade, with Bob Odenkirk of Better Call Saul fame playing Wiseau's role. Also, to add to the mystique, Wiseau is allowing this film to be produced and released with all profits going to a charitable cause, again suggesting significant independent wealth. While Tommy Wiseau has somewhat demystified himself over the years, and does now admit that he was born in Poland, numerous questions about him still remain. What are your theories and thoughts on how Wiseau was able to fund The Room and all of his creative endeavors? The Rock. The Rock, a gigantic eagle-like cryptid known from Middle Eastern folklore, has captured the human imagination for centuries. This colossal bird cryptid stands as a titan amongst aerial cryptids, rivaling even the thunderbird in its legendary stature. The Rock is said to stand 20 feet tall and have a wingspan of over 100 feet. Depending on the source, the Rock is able to either pick up and carry away juvenile or smaller elephants, or even massive bull elephants. The origins of the Rock myth are traced back to multiple cultures, with ancient Indian Sanskrit epics mentioning a gargantuan bird capable of lifting elephants, hinting at the future basis for the Rock. The Rock's influence extends beyond mere folklore, making notable appearances in historical texts and explorers' accounts. Marco Polo, during his 13th century travels to China, is alleged to have witnessed this gigantic bird, describing how it could grasp an elephant in its talons, lift it into the air, and drop it to its demise. After this, the Rock would leisurely feast upon the elephant, or take the elephant back to nourish its chicks. Also, I think we finally answered the age-old question about what the Rock is cooking. It's elephant, at least if you're a rock chick. Polo described the bird as making its base in Madagascar and conducting northern, quote, raids into the Eurasian mainland. Further, he described Kublai Khan as having rock feathers in his possession. The Rock's story is also intricately tied to iconic tales of adventure and exploration, such as those of Sinbad the Sailor. In 1001 Nights, Sinbad encounters rocks on 2 of his voyages, with the most iconic scene likely being rocks dropping boulders on his ship. Or rocks dropping giant rocks, if you will. Modern scholars have sought to find a historical basis for this creature, with one of the most likely examples being the Haast's eagle, a gigantic eagle that once lived in New Zealand. In support of this theory, the Haast's eagle was known to prey upon the moa, an extinct species of flightless bird that dwarfs the ostrich. Moa could weigh up to 500 pounds, and the Haast's eagle would swoop down on them and take out the giant creature in an aerial assault. However, personally, I find it difficult to believe that this eagle is the basis for the Rock, given the relative isolation of New Zealand from the rest of the world until modern times. That said, it is possible that through an elaborate and intergenerational game of, quote, telephone, the Haast's eagle morphed into the Rock. Other modern theories suggest that it could be an old world variant of the famous Thunderbird. However, some also suggest that the Rock and the Thunderbird could actually be the same entity. According to this theory, the Rock may have maintained nests on various Pacific islands, including New Zealand, where it was sheltered from predation. When it sought to hunt, according to this theory, the Rock would raid into either Eurasia or the Americas, acquiring a different name but similar mythology in each territory. Importantly, this theory has no evidence in favor of it, though I suspect it's gaining popularity because it's an interesting theory that explains 2 charismatic cryptids. My view on the Rock is simple. Humans have long recognized that eagles are cool-looking and proficient hunters. My source on eagles being considered, quote, cool by humans is that humans have a strong tendency to put eagles on flags, banners, and standards. This applies across cultures and across time, from the ancient Romans to modern Americans, amongst many, many others. So basically, my hypothesis is that some person at some point in history said, you know what would be even cooler? An eagle so big that it hunts elephants. And hence the legend of the rock was born. Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. My goal is to create the most expansive Iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you all along for the ride. Also, please consider signing up for a YouTube membership and joining the Patreon. Your support helps me devote an incredible amount of time to content creation. Also, remember to join the Discord community. We've got almost 60 members now, and the community is super active. Click the link in the description. The Golden Suitcase. Here's a suggestion from patron and Discord member Iced Mocha, which according to my research has never been covered before in any capacity in the English language. Thanks for this amazing suggestion and helping me bring new content to the audience. Also, if you have any unsolved mysteries that are only known in your own country, please join the Discord or leave a comment. The Golden Suitcase is a tale of ancient riches discovered in Crimea, only to vanish without a trace during World War II. I note that during the time in question, Crimea was part of the Soviet Union. In January 1926, a Crimean peasant in the Ukrainian village of Marfovka stumbled upon a burial site and a trove of treasures. These treasures turned out to be an ancient Gothic king's burial dating back to the 3rd to 5th century AD. Also, interesting aside, Crimean Gothic people continued to inhabit the Crimean Peninsula until at least the 18th century, and may have persisted on even longer. It is now speculated that the Crimean Gothic people gradually assimilated into the Crimean Greek and Crimean Tatar populations, and adopted their respective religions as well. Among the findings were a stunning golden diadem adorned with carnelians and pomegranate seeds, along with several other exquisite gold ornaments. Dubbed the Marfa treasure, these artifacts became a prized possession of the Kerch Historical and Archaeological Museum, one of the oldest museums in Crimea. The museum's gold collection boasted a staggering array of over 700 gold and silver items, including ancient coins, plaques depicting mythological scenes, intricate jewelry, and more. However, the outbreak of war with Germany in 1941 posed a grave threat to these priceless artifacts. With the Germans advancing into Crimea, museum authorities hastily packed the most significant exhibits, including the gold collection, into 19 boxes for evacuation. Among them was a large black suitcase containing the most valuable treasures, meticulously sealed and safeguarded. Under the leadership of renowned archaeologist Uli Marty, the museum cargo embarked on a perilous journey away from the front line, with the golden suitcase receiving special care. Despite facing numerous dangers along the way, including bombing raids and German patrols, the cargo managed to reach Armavir in Russia. However, the building housing the museum exhibits came under a bombing raid, and the fate of the golden suitcase became uncertain. Through extensive archival research and interviews, the story of the suitcase's journey gradually unfolded. It was revealed that the suitcase, forgotten in the chaos of evacuation, survived the bombing and was discovered by a museum official who was entrusted with its safekeeping. Amidst the chaos of war, she attempted to transport the suitcase to safety, eventually handing it over to a local militia detachment for further evacuation. However, fate had other plans, and the detachment and crucial members tasked with safeguarding the suitcase fell victim to the invading forces. Despite exhaustive investigations and search efforts, the whereabouts of the golden suitcase remains a mystery. In August 1946, in the forest near the village of Spokanaya in the Russian Caucasus, local children found a golden diadem. They took it to the police, and from there it was allegedly transferred to the Soviet authorities. Unsurprisingly, the golden diadem went missing at this time, and it has never resurfaced. However, judging by contemporary descriptions, it is very reminiscent of the royal diadem from the Marfa treasure, which was in the golden suitcase. And here's the thing, golden diadems don't just show up in the woods routinely. Let me know the last time you ran into one in the woods in the comments below. At any rate, no one had thought to draw such a comparison at the time. Further yet, given that the authorities seemed more interested in keeping the treasure for themselves, it likely wouldn't have mattered anyway. Also, as an aside, the only person who could definitively identify the diadem as being from the golden suitcase was Yuli Marty, the archaeologist who had initially packed it. Unfortunately, Yuli Marty's life also took an unfortunate turn during World War II. Marty was Russian of German ethnicity, and he had been internally exiled from Crimea to Kazakhstan for this reason. At present, the whereabouts of the treasure remain unknown. Given that the last known whereabouts of the golden suitcase was with a militia, and further given that the militia was apparently slain by Axis forces, there are a few possibilities here. First, and perhaps most obvious, is that the Germans looted the golden suitcase and other treasure. While some of the ill-gotten gains would undoubtedly be lost over the course of the war, some likely made it back to Germany and other Axis nations. From there, the contents of the golden suitcase and the other loot may have entered private collections or have been kept as family heirlooms. Alternatively, many of the items would become untraceable if melted down for gold or silver, and as such, under this hypothesis, many of the items are likely lost forever. Other alternatives are possible as well. Perhaps when the militiamen encountered the advancing German forces, they may have buried the treasure, which could explain the diadem being found. In the alternative, when it became clear that the militiamen would be unable to win in their encounter with the Germans, some members of the militia may have deserted with it. Ruja Ignatova and the one-coin scandal. Ruja Ignatova, once known to her devotees as the Crypto Queen, has been a focal point of one of the largest financial scandals in recent history. This scandal is centered around the fraudulent cryptocurrency scheme, OneCoin. Launched in 2014, OneCoin was presented as a revolutionary digital currency that would rival Bitcoin. Notably, OneCoin claimed to use a, quote, private blockchain for all interactions, and as you may have guessed, there was no blockchain whatsoever. Ignatova's venture promised a new era of financial prosperity for investors, leveraging the booming interest in cryptocurrencies. However, the operation, lacking any genuine blockchain technology, was revealed to be a pyramid scheme, and Ignatova disappeared in 2017. OneCoin, despite its lack of a legitimate foundation, claimed to have over 3 million members by the end of 2016, promoting itself as the next big thing in the world of virtual currencies. U.S. authorities have since classified it as one of the largest pyramid schemes ever, with Ignatova at the helm of this elaborate scam. Through this scheme, Ignatova and her associates encouraged early investors to recruit new participants. Supposed, quote, returns were financed by the influx of funds from subsequent investors rather than genuine business activities. The unraveling of OneCoin began when Ignatova vanished in 2017 as U.S. and international authorities intensified their investigations into the scheme. She was last seen traveling from Sofia, Bulgaria, to Athens, Greece, which sparked widespread speculation about her whereabouts, and whether she had been forewarned about an impending arrest. As of 2022, Ignatova has since been placed on the FBI's list of 10 most wanted fugitives, with a substantial reward offered for information leading to her arrest. In the aftermath, various associates of Ignatova, including OneCoin's co-founder Sebastian Greenwood and her brother Konstantin Ignatov, have faced legal actions. Greenwood was arrested in Thailand and extradited to the United States, while Konstantin was apprehended in Los Angeles, pleading guilty to charges related to the scheme. Theories about Ignatova's current location and status vary widely, fueled by the international attention the case has garnered. Some suggest she has undergone extensive efforts to conceal her identity, with substantial alterations to her appearance, through plastic surgery or other means. However, there's a potential darker fate that may have befallen Ignatova. A Bulgarian investigative journalism website called Bird reported that Ignatova was ended on the orders of a Bulgarian crime lord. According to this version of events, which has not been independently verified, this crime lord invited Ignatova onto his yacht in 2018 to, quote, discuss business. Once on board the yacht, she was slain and processed, with her remains thrown into the Ionian Sea. According to the investigative report, Ignatova had roped said crime boss into her criminal enterprise, not as a co-conspirator, but as a, quote, investor. I note that as of November 2018, OneCoin was noted to be a fraud, so I question why Ignatova would ever entertain getting on board this yacht. However, I do note that back in Germany, she had or has a husband and daughter, and presumably, she has family remaining in Bulgaria. Simply put, she may have been given an offer she couldn't refuse, essentially forcing her on the yacht. Given her significant entanglements with organized crime figures, and given that she attempted to rip them off, unfortunately, I've got my doubts as to her current status. The Azuki-Arai. The Azuki-Arai, also known as Azuki-Togi, is a captivating yokai from Japanese folklore. The essence of this yokai is captured by the mysterious sounds of azuki beans being washed or ground, typically near rivers or other bodies of water. As a quick aside, azuki beans are a type of red bean popular across East Asia that are often made into red bean paste. Like most well-known aspects of Japanese culture, the Azuki-Arai's present form took hold during the Edo period, starting in the 17th century. Personally, I find it interesting that even the mundane act of washing beans is imbued with ghostly and spiritual significance. In terms of physical description, this yokai is very rarely sighted, and as such, varied physical descriptions exist. It is sometimes envisioned as a small, lizard-like creature with sharp teeth and claws, though this depiction seems somewhat rare. Other descriptions of the creature indicate that it's a tiny humanoid creature with large, bulging eyes and a generally offensive appearance. Still other descriptions indicate that the creature is a Japanese raccoon dog known as a tanuki, which is known to have magical abilities. This description as a magical tanuki isn't necessarily mutually exclusive with the above descriptions. Tanuki are said to be powerful shapeshifters. So far, this probably sounds like just about the most mundane, paranormal phenomenon ever, right? This creature, which no one ever really seems to see, just happily washes beans. Pretty harmless, right? Nope. Wrong. You see, the story of this yokai has a much darker twist than you can imagine, and there's a reason no definitive account exists of the creature. According to folklore, if the Azuki-Arai runs out of azuki beans to wash, it doesn't just call it a day. It begins hunting for more azuki beans to wash, or it seeks out humans. And trust me, it's not just looking to show off its collection of washed beans. It's hungry, and it won't stop hunting people until it acquires more beans. Anyway, the lesson here is that if you're in the Japanese countryside, near a river or any body of water, Be sure to carry some extra azuki beans in your pocket. The Slaying of Lucy Blackman. In July 2000, 21-year-old Lucy Blackman, a British national who had moved to Tokyo in search of adventure, vanished without a trace. Lucy, a former flight attendant, took up employment as a hostess in Roppongi, Tokyo's party district. Hostessing in Japan often entails socializing with patrons to promote higher spending within clubs, yet it harbors risks due to the potential for unsolicited advances outside work premises. Women who work in this environment often supplement their income with paid companionship work after hours, if you catch my drift. However, there is no conclusive evidence to indicate that Lucy was engaging in this kind of work, and even if she was, this is obviously absolutely no justification for what happened to her. Lucy's disappearance on July 1st, 2000 led to widespread concern. Her father, Tim Blackman, promptly arrived in Tokyo to seek answers and escalate the search, leveraging media attention to pressure local authorities. Despite the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department's slow start, this spotlight intensified the investigation. Notably, the Japanese authorities faced intense criticism for their failure to take Lucy's case seriously prior to media attention. Some have speculated that the police in general do not take crimes against foreigners working as hostesses seriously. This, of course, has the effect of making these women prime targets for predators. The prime suspect quickly emerged, a man named Joji Obara, who was born Kim Sung-jong. Obara has an interesting history. He was born in Japan to ethnic Korean parents and amassed an extremely immense fortune during the 1980s Japanese bubble economy. However, as anyone familiar with Japanese economic history will know, the bubble economy burst at the start of the 90s, and Obara lost the vast majority of his wealth. Obara had been reported to the police on numerous occasions in the past for his extremely disturbing behavior with women. Prior police complaints against him had been overlooked, despite his lengthy history of conducting indecent assaults against numerous women. The revelation of his crimes only surfaced following Lucy's disappearance, when authorities uncovered over 400 video recordings of his indecent attacks, which he filmed in his condo. Obara would lure women back to his condominium, and then when they were there, he would give them a drink laced with sedatives. He was arrested following the link between his contact with Lucy and corroborative testimonies from other victims. However, his trial was marked by challenges, notably the acquittal on charges directly associated with Lucy's fate due to insufficient direct evidence. Despite being legally not guilty of the actions, a friend of Obara paid £450,000 to Lucy's father on behalf of Obara. But yes, I'm required to say this here, the allegations against Obara with respect to Lucy Blackman were not proven, and he is legally speaking not guilty. The slaying of Lucy Blackman is thus still unsolved, or perhaps better put, unresolved, as there are presumably no further investigations into her slaying. However, fortunately, Obara was not able to get away with every crime committed. Obara did face justice and was convicted of multiple indecent assaults and the manslaughter of another victim, Karita Ridgway. He spent years appealing these decisions. However, in 2012, his appeals were rejected by the Japanese Supreme Court. Obara is now in prison for life and will be unable to victimize any women further. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership. The lowest tier of YouTube membership is just 99 cents per month, and every little bit helps me focus more of my time on content creation. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't done so already. Like I said, I put out content constantly, and you don't want to miss it. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, and Blasphemous. Also, big shout out to YouTube members Jordan All and Syntax Nexus. And for everyone else, I say it always, but I love you all, and I'm so happy to have you here. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone. Welcome to part 29 of the Ultimate Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. In this series, we deep dive cases including true crime, mysterious disappearances, myths and legends, strange events, internet mysteries, and more. Also, I upload about 5 times per week, so make sure to subscribe for a constant stream of high-quality content. The Brittany Murphy and Simon Monjack mystery. Brittany Murphy, born November 10th, 1977, in Atlanta, Georgia, moved to Los Angeles as a teenager to pursue an acting career. She marked her entry into Hollywood with the 1995 teen comedy Clueless, where she co-starred as Ty Frazier. Her career flourished in the late 90s, and by the early 2000s she had secured significant roles in 8 Mile and Sin City, amongst other massive box office hits. Further, her work as a voice actor for the character of Luann on King of the Hill was also lauded by both critics and fans alike. In terms of other endeavors, she also had a respectable music career. However, given her massive success as an actor, in general, this portion of her career is relegated to a footnote. Outside her professional career, she captured headlines in the early and mid-2000s for her relationship with leading man Ashton Kutcher. However, this relationship was not to be, with the couple ending the romance sometime in early 2006. In April 2007, Brittany Murphy married British screenwriter and producer Simon Monjack. Monjack had a troubled history and had been charged with credit card fraud in 2005. However, the charges were later dropped by the prosecution. Further, Monjack had civil litigation troubles in relation to a number of mortgages which went sideways. Further yet, he had also once faced deportation from the United States on the basis of violations of the terms of his visa. On December 20th, 2009, at the age of 32, Brittany Murphy's life came to a sudden, mysterious, and tragic end in her Hollywood Hills home. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office declared her cause of death as pneumonia, exacerbated by anemia, and combined legal drug intoxication. Brittany's personal life, particularly after her marriage to Simon Monjack, who also died under similar circumstances just 5 months after her, has been a subject of speculation and intrigue. Brittany had undergone severe physical changes after her marriage, most notably an immense loss of weight. A 2021 documentary entitled What Happened Brittany Murphy makes numerous allegations against Simon Monjack. These allegations include Monjack's own friends accusing him of not allowing Brittany Murphy to interact with her friends and family. Obviously a very major red flag if true. Further, these friends of Monjack also alleged that Monjack was in part responsible for Brittany's drastic weight loss. However, it is important to state that these are allegations only, and neither Monjack nor Murphy are around to confirm or deny the veracity of these allegations. However, there's another entirely different reason Brittany Murphy and Simon Monjack may have passed away. According to Sharon Murphy, Brittany's mother, toxic mold in the house was responsible for the passing of both individuals. However, this has never been verified, and the Los Angeles Assistant Chief Coroner stated that there were, quote, no indicators that mold played a part in Brittany's passing. Also, there's a postscript to this story which again does not put Simon Monjack in a positive light. In January 2010, Sharon Murphy and Simon Monjack inaugurated the, quote, Brittany Murphy Foundation. This quote-unquote charitable organization was founded to support children's arts education and fund cancer research initiatives. The official launch of the foundation took place on February 4, 2010, during a fundraising gala held in Beverly Hills. Subsequent to the event, A check on the organization's legal status uncovered that it had not completed the necessary paperwork to secure not-for-profit status. As a result, the foundation took the step of returning all donations it had received. A formal announcement on the foundation's website explained that in the eagerness to launch the foundation, an error occurred. It was claimed that the foundation was initially set up as a private foundation, with intentions to seek nonprofit status at a later date. The statement further clarified that the decision had been made to postpone further activities until the nonprofit status was officially obtained. However, this didn't happen until November 2013, and even then, when it did, it was relaunched by Brittany Murphy's father. But at any rate, there's still no clear answer as to how two young and apparently healthy people degenerated so rapidly that they passed away within mere months from one another. Also, yes, there's one more thing about Simon Monjack and Sharon Murphy. There are allegations that the two engaged in a relationship after the passing of Brittany Murphy, or at the very least that they shared a bed. Again, like many of the other allegations in this case, there's no way to confirm or deny it, but it's just one more rabbit hole to go down. At any rate, personally, I would dismiss this theory as typical tabloid gossip, unless anyone has any reason to suggest otherwise. The Irish Crown Jewels. This is another excellent suggestion from frequent contributor Lauren Redmond. Thank you so much for this amazing suggestion, as always. The Irish Crown Jewels, also known as the Jewels of the Order of St. Patrick, were a symbol of the British monarchy's connection to Ireland. Created in 1831, these jewels comprised a heavily jeweled star and badge that were worn by the Grand Master of the Order. The pieces themselves were made of diamonds, emeralds, and rubies, set in gold and valued at approximately $20 million today. Despite their significance, the jewels were notoriously stolen from Dublin Castle on July 6, 1907, a theft that has remained one of Ireland's most enduring mysteries. The circumstances surrounding the disappearance of the jewels are riddled with either intrigue or negligence. They were kept in a safe in the Office of Arms at Dublin Castle, guarded by Sir Arthur Vickers, the Ulster King of Arms. Security measures were lax. Vickers reportedly had a habit of drinking to excess and was known to have misplaced the keys to the safe on at least one occasion. Further indicating that Vickers may have had a problem drinking is the fact that on another occasion he got so wasted that he blacked out and woke up adorned with the crown jewels. Vickers, perhaps being a somewhat irresponsible person, never investigated the latter incident further, and it was unclear if this incident was the result of a drunken stupor or a dry run for the heist. On July 6, 1907, just days before a visit from King Edward VII, it was discovered that the jewels had gone missing. Investigations into the theft turned up a plethora of theories, but no concrete answers. Initial suspicion fell on Vickers himself, though no evidence could conclusively link him to the crime. Another figure, Francis Shackleton, brother of the famous explorer Ernest Shackleton, emerged as a suspect. This less famous Shackleton was Vickers' second in command and also had access to the key and the ability to borrow it and duplicate it as well. Vickers publicly accused Shackleton of being responsible for the heist. However, no evidence was offered in favor of this. Yet, despite accusations and a commission of inquiry that ultimately led to Vickers' dismissal, the true perpetrator was never identified, and the jewels were never recovered. Theories about the jewels' fate have ranged widely, and no definitive most likely explanation exists. Despite exhaustive searches and investigations, including one by Scotland Yard, the jewels' whereabouts remain unknown. Also, just a quick aside, this situation with Arthur Vickers and the Irish Crown Jewels reminds me of the comic negligence of Homer Simpson in the episode Homer Goes to College. In this episode, the nuclear power plant is undergoing an inspection by a regulatory body, and Mr. Burns wants to hide Homer and two other low-performing employees from the regulators. Smithers sets up a jar with a bee in it and puts Homer and the two others in the basement of the power plant, where Homer is made the, quote, head bee watching guy. Of course, Homer manages to screw up this simple task regardless, and the bee escapes. In our case, Vickers is clearly the bumbling Homer character in this situation. Anyway, though, back to the case at hand. Another theory revolves around the sexual orientation of Vickers and Shackleton. Vickers and Shackleton were, to use the language of the Victorian era, quote-unquote, confirmed bachelors. Let's just say the parties at Dublin Castle got very wild in a manner that would knock the monocle out of the eye of your average Victorian-era aristocrat. Further, Vickers and Shackleton were alleged to have had a quote-unquote close relationship with King Edward VII's brother-in-law. This led to two related theories, both of which are permutations on the same idea. The first theory is that Vickers and company openly stole the Irish crown jewels, knowing that Edward VII wouldn't want the nature of the relationship between a member of the royal family known. Under this theory, Vickers and his crew weren't actually bumbling oafs, but rather used their relations with the king's brother-in-law as a form of extortion. Under the second theory, Vickers was put up to the task of the theft by someone who knew of his relationship with the king's brother-in-law. In this formulation, if Vickers hadn't committed the offense, the blackmailer would have exposed the fact that the king's brother-in-law was participating in bawdy male-only parties. Another theory, which has become increasingly popular over the years, is that the crown jewels were stolen by Irish independence activists. In this theory, after the activists stole or facilitated the theft of the crown jewels were ferried to the United States. Once the jewels were stateside, pro-Irish independence elements turned the jewels to funds, perhaps again using pro-Irish networks in America. These funds were then reinvested into the cause of Irish liberation from the British state. That said, there's no apparent evidence to support this theory. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on the Irish crown jewels. Which theory do you prefer, or do you have a theory of your own? Hey everyone, Jimmy here, the YouTuber behind the Lazy Chill Zone channel. If you're enjoying my content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. My goal is to create the most expansive Iceberg series in YouTube history, and I want you all along for the ride. Consider signing up for a YouTube membership and joining the Patreon. Your support allows me to dedicate a large amount of my time to content creation. Also, remember to join the Discord community. We've got well over 60 members now, and the community is super active. Click the link in the description. Kazakhstan Black Ring UFO. This is a suggestion by patron and Discord community member Iced Mocha. Thank you so much for suggesting this case to me and providing links. This appears to be the first time this case has been covered in the English-speaking world. Remember to add any of your suggestions in the comments below, or join up in the Discord and post your suggestions there and communicate with me directly. On April 3rd, 2015, a video of a mysterious black ring hovering in the sky emerged and sparked rumors of a potential UFO sighting. The footage depicted an unusual black ring floating in a clear blue sky above a small village near Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. Stunned locals observed the phenomenon for several minutes before it dissipated, leaving them in awe. One witness described it resembling a black cloud, noting its sudden disappearance without any odor. The video quickly garnered attention, going viral on Russian language websites and fueling speculation about its origin. Some viewers speculated that it could be an extraterrestrial spacecraft, while others posited more mundane explanations, such as an unusual smoke ring. The video achieved such a level of virality that experts were called in to comment upon it. Andrei Solodnik, an associate physics professor at Northern Kazakhstan State University, estimated the ring to be approximately 100 meters in diameter, floating at an altitude of around 200 meters. He dismissed claims of UFO involvement, attributing the occurrence to a large and likely man-made smoke ring. That said, this didn't stop speculation into the nature of the sighting, especially given the location where it occurred. However, it's important to note that this region has a significant history of reported UFO sightings, adding to the intrigue surrounding this event. It's been speculated that the high number of sightings of UFOs in Kazakhstan is due to Kazakhstan housing one of the most important spaceports in the world, the Baikonur Cosmodrome. This spaceport, located within Kazakhstan, was once part of the Soviet Union together with Russia. This storied spaceport is the largest space launch facility in the world and was the site of numerous space firsts. However, upon the breakup of the Soviet Union, the Baikonur Cosmodrome was deep within Kazakh territory, and the newly formed Kazakh government had no ability to use it. Sputnik 1, the first satellite ever, launched from this cosmodrome. Sputnik 2, which carried the first ever mammal into space, Laika the space dog for those who don't know, launched from the cosmodrome as well. Finally, and perhaps most famously, Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space, launched from here as well. Two popular theories have been put forward to explain the level of UFO activity in this particular region. The first theory is that the United States is flying secret missions with highly classified technology in the region around Baikonur Cosmodrome for intelligence gathering purposes. In favor of this theory, due to the U-2 crash incident in 1960 in the region, it's public knowledge that the United States has flown secret cutting-edge aircraft within this airspace. The other theory is that the Cosmodrome has drawn the attention of an alien civilization or civilizations. After all, 3 of the most major civilizational milestones have taken place at the Cosmodrome. The significance of these 3 milestones discussed previously would be readily apparent to any spacefaring civilization. Therefore, under this theory, these UFOs are representatives of an alien civilization watching the progress of humanity. While there's no confirmed evidence in favor of this interpretation, as most of you know, we're living in exciting times for UFO disclosure, so who knows really? And to go back to the black ring itself, it's probably just a weird-looking smoke ring. The Tofu Kozo. The Tofu Kozo, translating to Tofu Boy in English, stands out among the pantheon of Japanese yokai for its unique blend of the eerie and the seemingly innocuous. And as a quick aside, yokai are mixtures of spirits, cryptids, demons, minor gods, ghosts, and other supernatural entities found throughout Japanese folklore. In the present day, the Tofu Kozo is fairly obscure. However, back in its heyday, it was amongst the most well-known yokai. This creature, first making its appearance in the literature of the 1770s, rapidly gained popularity in Edo period Japan, a time rich in urbanization and cultural development. Characterized by its depiction as a childlike entity bearing tofu, the Tofu Kozo navigates the fine line between the benign and the potentially malevolent. The Tofu Kozo was portrayed in literature of the time as humorous, with its decidedly non-menacing appearance, leading to it being picked on by other yokai. In some myths surrounding the Tofu Kozo, the creature follows humans on rainy nights, maintaining a set distance, and always holding out an offering of tofu on a plate. One of the more ominous legends surrounding the Tofu Kozo involves the consequences of consuming the tofu it offers. It is said that ingesting this tofu could lead to the growth of a deadly fungus inside the victim, ultimately draining their life force. This tale underscores the duality of the tofu kozo, juxtaposing its seemingly innocuous appearance with a hidden, deadly nature. However, this portion of the legend is thought to have been added later on, as a lesson for children not to accept food of unknown origin. And honestly, it's just good policy not to accept food from random creatures. Notably, there are other variants of the tofu kozo as well, with the most common variant depicting the creature as a one-eyed supernatural entity. By the end of the 19th century, the tofu kozo had largely faded from public consciousness, with this yokai no longer being commonly referenced or well known. Further, unlike other yokai which have now become ingrained in manga, anime, and video games, the tofu kozo has lacked any such renaissance. I guess it's just hard to be taken seriously when your main ability as a yokai is the ability to maintain a polite distance and offer tofu. The Rostron Sea Serpent. Okay, this is another suggestion from Lauren Redmond. Thanks for taking the time to improve the series with your amazing suggestions. The Rostron Sea Serpent, named after Captain Arthur Henry Rostron, is an intriguing piece of maritime folklore. Adding credibility to the tale, it's interwoven with the career of a distinguished sea captain, known for his heroic rescue of Titanic survivors. Captain Rostron's life at sea began immediately upon completion of his schooling, wherein he joined the British Merchant Navy as a cadet. Rostron would quickly distinguish himself through his good sense, work ethic, reliability, and bravery. His seafaring life was marked by command on numerous ships, leading up to his commendable efforts during the Titanic disaster, which earned him widespread acclaim and honors. To give just a few examples, he held the Congressional Gold Medal, given by the United States, and was also a commander of the Order of the British Empire. This is all to say that Captain Rostron was someone of extremely high credibility, and who was very unlikely to have any need to fabricate a sea monster encounter for attention. Further adding to the credibility of the sighting, Captain Rostron likely had a disincentive to report a sea monster sighting, given the potential ridicule it opened him to. Also, as a quick aside before we discuss the encounter itself, Captain Rostron had at one point captained the ill-fated ship, the Lusitania, which was sunk by the Imperial German Navy in 1915. However, luckily for Rostron, he had moved to a different command on that fateful day. Rostron's encounter with the Sea Serpent occurred in 1907, while he was serving as chief officer on the Campania off the Irish coast. According to his account, he and his crew spotted an unusual object in the water, which he initially instructed to steer clear of, thinking it was a sea monster. Rostron sketched the creature, describing it as having a head rising 8 or 9 feet out of the water and a neck trunk around 12 inches thick. There's little other evidence in relation to this sighting. However, Captain Rostron never recanted his account. I note that it would have been helpful to have other members of the crew publish their own accounts of the sighting. That said, maybe the other crew members didn't want to attract any ridicule or accusations, or perhaps the crew members didn't want to publish their contradictory accounts out of respect for the reputation of Captain Rostron. After all, he was accepted by everyone as a hero by the time this account came out, and making him look foolish could have numerous negative consequences. But let's get back to the description of this unknown sea creature. This sea creature, with a lengthy neck protruding several feet above the water, does not seem to resemble any known currently living sea creature. While some speculate the sighting could be attributed to a prehistoric survivor like a plesiosaur, such explanations stretch credulity given the lack of any credible evidence for their existence. Further, contrary to popular beliefs about the historical sea creature, while it did have an immensely long neck, it didn't have the ability to stick its head out of the water. The reason for this is that they were entirely ocean-bound and had no ability whatsoever to move on land. They didn't have gills, so they were forced to the surface on occasion to breathe. However, their physiology does not support them having the ability to raise their neck like a swan. That said, according to this theory, a modern variant would have had to have undergone approximately 200 million years of evolution, so differences would have been likely. Another hypothesis is my own, but it draws upon the existence of another cryptid, the high-finned sperm whale. Perhaps Captain Rostrum saw the dorsal fin of an elusive high-finned sperm whale, or perhaps just an unusually large dorsal fin of any large whale species in general. Others theorize that the sea monster was an optical illusion, perhaps formed by unusual sea conditions, which could distort the viewer's perception of an object or animal on the surface. I note that this hypothesis could also account for a dorsal fin misidentification. At any rate, given Captain Rostrum's general level of credibility, and given that he had no need whatsoever to exaggerate his exploits, it's not hard to see why this case is so fascinating. The Looney Tunes Mandela Effect. The Looney Tunes Mandela Effect represents a fascinating instance of collective false memory. A significant portion of the population remembers the classic Warner Brothers animation series as Looney Toons, rather than its actual spelling, Looney Tunes. Quick aside, if this is the first time you're hearing of the Mandela Effect, it's the hypothesis that mass false memory scenarios are potentially caused by alternative timelines merging. If you've been an avid watcher of this series, some of the most famous examples are the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia, and of course the Berenstain Bears. The confusion between the two spellings is speculated to stem from several factors. One prominent theory suggests that the mix-up could be attributed to the similarity between the names of Looney Tunes and the 90s spin-off series Tiny Toon Adventures. Tiny Toon Adventures, commonly called Tiny Toons, featured child versions of the Looney Tunes characters. This similarity in naming could have led to a blending of the two in people's memories, reinforcing the incorrect spelling. Additionally, the similarity between tunes and toons further complicates the matter, as toons is a common abbreviation for cartoons. Sorry, couldn't resist that one. This is another Mandela effect that's easily solved by applying Occam's razor. People associate the Toons spelling with cartoons and made an assumption. Also, by way of explanation for the actual spelling of Looney Tunes, the series was developed with the purpose of showcasing Warner Brothers' music library. I feel comfortable stamping this one with a definitive case closed, but let me know if you disagree in the comments. The Capre. This is a suggestion from Discord community member Marsh. Thanks for this one. The Capre is a fascinating cryptid in Philippine folklore, often depicted as a giant hominid that dwells in trees and has a particular fondness for smoking. They're described as being up to 9 feet tall, having dark skin and dark thick hair covering most of their body. Some depictions of the creature portray them as being a part of the tree itself. They are said to inhabit large trees like acacias, mangoes, and banyans, blending into the natural environment with their tree-like appearance. Further, they're nocturnal creatures and are believed to sleep for most of the daytime, while other stories claim they're invisible during the day. Interestingly, Capre are not necessarily malevolent, but can be mischievous, playing pranks on humans, such as making travelers lose their way in the forest or mountains. Despite their large size and occasional pranks, Capre may also show a protective side, especially towards the natural environment or people they become fond of. If you're able to befriend one, according to some variants of the legend, they have the ability to grant wishes. As for what the Capre phenomenon actually is, a number of suggestions have been made. The most common suggestion is that they're a personification of darkness. Others suggest they're a form of ape-like cryptid which has not yet properly been classified by science. However, given the apparent widespread nature of these creatures, as well as the fact that they routinely smoke tobacco, I feel comfortable dismissing this claim outright. Others have speculated that they're a cultural memory of a once living hominid relative, which has had legendary attributes overlaid upon it over the centuries. At any rate, whatever these creatures are or represent, I think we can all agree the idea of walking through the jungle being observed by ape-like tree-dwelling giants is unnerving. Anyway, remember to check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership. Every little bit helps me devote even more time to this project. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't done so already. Like I said, I put out content constantly, and you don't want to miss it. Also, click the full tier playlist in the pinned comment below. There's literally dozens of hours of content for you to explore. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Ice Coffee, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z Volts, Director Delta, Unknown Delusions, and Blasphemous. Big shout out to YouTube members Jordan All and Syntax Nexus. And for everyone else, I love you all, and I'm so happy to have you here. Until next time, stay safe and healthy. Peace out, everyone.